Have you ever noticed how some people just seem to have it all figured out? You know the type. No matter what life throws at them, stressful projects at work, difficult relationships, massive unforeseen setbacks, they just handle it. They do it with this calmness, clarity, and total confidence that almost seems like a superpower. Well, welcome to this explainer where we're going to unpack exactly how they do it. And spoiler alert, it's not about luck. It's not about being born smarter or wealthier or having better connections. It is entirely about habits. Now, when we hear the word habit, we usually think of the small stuff, right? Biting our nails, drinking way too much coffee, that kind of thing. But they are so much deeper than that. Habits are the invisible scripts running quietly in the background of our minds. We don't consciously wake up and decide to be overly stressed or to communicate poorly. Our default habits are making those choices for us before we even realize what's happening. They dictate how we react to problems, how we treat the people around us, and even how we view success itself. But here's the magic. Change your habits, and you literally rewrite those invisible scripts. You change your destiny. So let's dive into this incredible inside-out approach to true effectiveness.
Okay, here's our quick roadmap for today. We're breaking this down into 6 key sections. We'll kick things off with the inside-out approach and mastering yourself first. Then we'll shift our focus outward to the win-win mindset, empathetic listening, and creating synergy together. And finally, we'll wrap up with the engine that keeps this whole thing running, continuous self-renewal.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the inside-out approach.
So Stephen Covey's foundational concept is that real transformation absolutely does not start by changing your boss, your job, or your bank account. True change, it starts from within. This is habit 1, be proactive. Picture this. Imagine 2 people stuck in the exact same miserable gridlock traffic jam. Now, the reactive person is laying on the horn, cursing at other drivers, and basically experiencing a massive spike in cortisol. They are completely ruining their mood for the day, and you just know they're going to carry all that toxic anger right into the office. They are completely trapped in what Covey calls the circle of concern. That's when you waste all your energy obsessing over things you cannot control: the weather, the economy, the terrible traffic. But the proactive person, they do something radically different. They take a deep breath. They realize, hey, I can't magically make these cars move. So they put on an audiobook or a podcast and they learn something new. They are hyper-focused on their circle of influence. These are the things they actually have power over, like their own mindset and reaction. If you constantly obsess over things outside your control, your energy literally shrinks. But when you take full responsibility for your actions and your environment with absolutely zero excuses, your influence expands.
Now, look at this incredible quote. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies your power to choose. This gets right to the core of what being proactive really means. Think about getting one of those harsh, completely unfair emails from a coworker right at 4:55 p.m. The email is the stimulus. Your immediate reactive response is probably to furiously hammer out a defensive reply, hit send, and kick off a massive, stressful conflict. But if you're proactive, you recognize that tiny space between reading the email and typing your reply. In that space, you pause, you process. You actively choose to just step away from the keyboard and handle it professionally the next morning. That space, that is where true emotional freedom lives. It's the freedom to act on your deep values instead of just your fleeting temporary moods.
Moving right along to section 2, mastering yourself first.
Once you've actually harnessed that proactive energy we just talked about, you need to know exactly where to point it. Ask yourself this: what am I really trying to achieve in life? This brings us perfectly to habit 2, begin with the end in mind. It is incredibly easy to just wake up, fire off 100 emails, run endless errands, and end the day totally exhausted but feeling like you've just been running on a treadmill. You're busy, sure, but you're not fulfilled. Covey suggests a really profound and honestly slightly jarring exercise to fix this. Imagine you are walking into a funeral parlor. You walk down the aisle, look into the casket, and it's your own funeral, 3 years from now. What do you actually want the people in that room to say about you? What kind of friend, spouse, or coworker do you want them to remember? The answers to those deeply uncomfortable questions strip away all the daily noise and reveal your true, underlying values. Those values, they absolutely must become your life's compass.
Knowing your ultimate destination is what separates simply being busy from being intentionally effective. Let's look at 2 professionals, Ria and Aditi. Now, Ria is intensely focused on climbing the corporate ladder as fast as humanly possible. She says yes to every single task, stays late every night, and sacrifices her health and her family dinners just to prove her worth to the executives. But Aditi? Aditi has done the internal work. She knows her long-term goal is to build an independent, creative business, so she confidently says no to misaligned side projects and instead protects her evenings to learn new design skills. In the short term, Ria definitely looks busier. She might even snag a promotion sooner, but one day she might wake up and realize her ladder is leaning against the completely wrong wall. Aditi, on the other hand, is deliberately walking toward her chosen destination because she began with the end in mind. Remember, everything in life is created twice, first in your mind as a vision, and then in physical reality.
And having that vision leads us perfectly into habit 3. Put first things first. Imagine this time management matrix that divides your entire day into what is urgent and what is important. We all get the exact same 24 hours, right? Yet some people build these incredible lives while others spend all day just putting out fires. The absolute secret sauce here lies in quadrant 2, tasks that are important but not urgent. We're talking about long-term planning, deep, concentrated work, relationship building, and preventative health. The tricky part? These things never scream for your attention. Your email inbox screams, a ringing phone screams, but going for a run or sitting down to mentor a junior employee, not so much. But think about it. If you don't spend time maintaining your car, which is a classic quadrant 2 activity, you will eventually be forced to spend a ton of time and money fixing it when it breaks down on the side of the highway. Putting first things first means you have to stop squeezing your priorities into the leftover spaces of your day, and instead you start scheduling your entire day around those core priorities.
Section 3. The Win-Win Mindset.
Now we're going to pivot from mastering ourselves internally to the outer game, how we actually interact and build influence out in the real world. This brings us to habit 4, think win-win. You see, a lot of people operate from what we call a scarcity mentality. They deeply, fundamentally believe that life is a zero-sum game. It's like life is one single pie, and if a coworker gets a promotion, they feel like their own slice of that pie just got smaller. This mindset leads to hoarding information, taking sole credit, and even subtly sabotaging peers. It's toxic. But true, lasting influence, that's built on an abundance mentality. This is the belief that there is plenty of success, credit, and opportunity to go around for everyone. Imagine 2 coworkers, Arjun and Mira, are assigned this massive, high-profile project. Arjun desperately wants to lead the strategy to get recognition, and Mira wants total creative control. Instead of competing and undermining each other, they decide to collaborate. Arjun handles the high-level strategy, Mira designs the creative execution, and the final product is an absolute masterpiece. The result? They both get promoted. Helping others doesn't shrink your slice, it literally makes the entire pie exponentially bigger.
Section 4. Empathetic listening.
Okay, to really achieve that win-win mindset, you absolutely must master what is arguably the most underestimated and ignored skill in the whole world. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Imagine going to a doctor because you're having severe chest pains. Before you can even finish your second sentence, the doctor interrupts, hands you a random bottle of pills, and says, "Just take these, they worked great for my last patient." You'd run out of that office immediately, right? There's no way you'd trust them. It is totally absurd to prescribe a solution before you diagnose the problem. And yet, this is exactly how we communicate with our spouses, our kids, and our colleagues every single day. Someone comes to us frustrated and we immediately interrupt to offer our brilliant solutions or to tell a story about ourselves. Empathetic listening means listening not to formulate your clever reply, but to truly, deeply understand the other person's feelings and perspective. Behind every emotion is a story. When people feel genuinely heard and understood, they drop their walls. They stop aggressively defending their position. And that right there is where real trust and real influence finally begin.
Section 5. Creating synergy together.
When you successfully combine that win-win mindset with real empathetic listening, you unlock habit 6, synergy. Synergy is creative cooperation, where the whole becomes drastically greater than just the sum of its individual parts. It is all about actively celebrating our differences, not just grinning and tolerating them or managing them. Think of it like a beautiful piece of music.
A guitar sounds fantastic on its own. A drum beat is great by itself. But when you put that guitar and those drums together with a grand piano, you don't just get three separate sounds playing at the same time, you get a complex, moving harmony that actually touches the soul. No single instrument could ever achieve that kind of emotional resonance all alone. That is synergy.
Let's look at how this synergy actually plays out in a fast-paced, high-stakes work environment. Meet Priya, Samir, and Anuka. Priya is this wild, out-of-the-box creative thinker. Samir is a deeply logical, totally detail-oriented data analyst. And Anuka? She is a relentless project organizer. Now, individually, they're all highly capable. But if they just worked in silos, the result would be pretty average. When they synergize, though, they actually embrace healthy conflict. Samir uses his hard data to challenge Priya's wildest ideas, grounding them in reality without crushing her creative spark. Then, Anuka takes that grounded creativity and builds a bulletproof, executable timeline. The final product they launch is highly innovative, completely backed by solid research, and delivered exactly on deadline. It is vastly superior to anything they could have pulled off alone. See, diversity of thought isn't some hurdle you have to overcome. It is actually your ultimate competitive advantage.
Section 6. Continuous Self-Renewal.
Well, we have reached the final act. This is the engine of growth that makes all the previous habits sustainable over a lifetime. Habit 7, sharpen the saw. Covey famously compares life to a woodsman sawing down a massive tree. The woodsman is sweating, totally exhausted, and making absolutely zero progress because his saw blade is completely dull. When someone asks him why he doesn't just stop for a minute to sharpen the saw, he snaps back, "I don't have time, I'm too busy sawing." Does that sound familiar? Because that is exactly how most of us live. You have to carve out time to maintain balance across 4 core areas. Physically, you must build stamina through exercise, proper nutrition, and genuine rest. Mentally, you've got to keep the brain sharp by reading widely and expanding your worldview. Emotionally, you need to invest deeply in your meaningful relationships to build a real support system. And spiritually, you must regularly reconnect with your core values, whether that's through meditation, spending time in nature, or enjoying art, just to ensure you haven't lost your why. A leader who works tirelessly without renewing these 4 areas is inevitably going to burn out and revert right back to being reactive. But one who continuously sharpens the saw, they remain a creative, resilient, and intensely proactive force. Investing in yourself really is the only way you can continue to invest in the world around you.
And this brings us to a really beautiful synthesis of all 7 habits. The ultimate overarching takeaway here is that true influence is built through habits, not through authority. Take a rare, exceptional team leader like Rahul, for example. He doesn't just manage people, he truly leads them. He takes absolute responsibility for his team's mistakes without blaming circumstances. That's habit 1. He clearly articulates a compelling vision for the year. Habit 2. He actively protects his team's time for deep work. Habit 3. He genuinely wants his employees to outgrow their roles and succeed. Habit 4. He listens to their frustrations without immediately interrupting. Habit 5. And he blends their unique talents perfectly. Habit 6. Naturally, his team would follow him anywhere. And it's not because they fear his authority or because HR told them they have to comply, but out of profound respect for his character. That is what influence built on rock-solid principles looks like. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to pause for a second. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves here. Which of these habits do you feel like you already practice naturally, and which one desperately needs some attention? Remember, nobody learns these perfectly overnight. You don't just read about them and instantly become highly effective. It is a lifelong, ongoing journey of self-awareness. Your growth isn't going to be perfectly linear. But every single time you make a conscious effort to pause in that space between stimulus and response, you are strengthening your internal framework. So here is my final challenge to you. Just reading about habits changes absolutely nothing. Execution is the whole shebang. Pick one habit from this framework, just one, and practice it tomorrow. If you know you tend to react emotionally under stress, focus entirely on being proactive and finding that pause. If you feel like you are just wandering aimlessly through your weeks, sit down with a blank piece of paper and write out what you want your legacy to be. Transform these abstract concepts into tangible, daily behaviors. Practice is what actually makes the principles real.
Take that very first intentional step tomorrow morning and watch how it begins to change your destiny. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.